Welcome back to Ask the Attorney. I'm Amy Rao-Mohan here with Kevin Kennedy from the Kennedy Law Firm in Clarksville.
Yes.
We've been taking lots of calls today, civil, criminal, family law, property questions, wills, whatever.
Whatever you have, let's hit it.
That's right, and Kevin will be able to answer those. So we're going to take those calls at 615-737-PLUS, 737-7587. So keep those calls coming, and we'll take a few of these now. We've got Gerhardt here. Hi, Gerhardt.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I have a question for you for tonight. An artist that's in the Country Music Hall of Fame, he was in service. I'm not going to name his name, but he was on the Confederate flag, and I was wanting to know if he got paid if he fought in either war or wherever he fought. And since my dad's deceased, and he was a staff sergeant, and I'm refused at the VA, and they won't let me have his because he was retired. And how would I go about getting mine? Thank you, and I appreciate the call.
Okay.
So trying to get benefits? I'm not
Well, I wasn't
sure.
really totally sure either, but if he was trying to obtain benefits from the Veterans Administration, almost every county has a Veterans Affairs office, and you make application, and if it was your father's, many times there's possibilities that people get benefits even if their father has passed away. So I would start with the county government, and here's the great thing. What are you on? You're on a fact-finding mission. That's why you came and asked this question, and we thank you so much for asking the questions, because then you learn a little bit. And so many people, Amy may say, well, I'm not sure about this, but you can try this. So I tell people, ask questions, go to another. Even in the law firm, what we do, we'll get a fact scenario just like this question, and we'll go to this lawyer, and we have our opinion. And when you have two lawyers and they say exactly opposites, don't move on that advice. But when you get three lawyers and they all agree, you're standing pretty good. That's why they call it the practice of law, and that's why they call it, this is our theory of law that we travel down. So the law is clear. How do I take the facts, this gentleman's question, and apply it to the law? And I'll apply it always to my client's favor. The next lawyer, he'll be advocating, and he'll try to apply those facts and show why it benefits his client.
That's right. All right, we've got Greg here. Hi, Greg.
Hello.
Hello.
How can we help you today?
Yes, I have a question for my wife and I. My wife and I both were previously married and have children by previous marriages, and we're just wanting to know what would happen with our assets without a will, and what's the advantage of obtaining a will.
Right.
Well, first I would say you want a will.
Everybody wants a will. Everybody needs a will, and it's really using poor judgment to pass away without a will. Especially it's complicated when you have assets, especially it's complicated when you have children, and especially when there's been a divided family. The best way to leave a terrible legacy is not to have a will, because it makes children and stepchildren, stepmothers go at odds over the home, personal property, gun collections, jewelry, or whatever. So again, as a general rule, if you die and you have no will, then basically it goes to your wife. And many people want to cut their wives out of their wills for whatever reason. But in Tennessee, they're entitled to 1/3, so they can still say, okay, I saw Kevin's will, but I'm still his wife, and they'll get a lawyer, and they'll go get that third. And so the law is pretty clear on many things, but the facts are what are different, and then every judge can interpret that differently. And of course, sometimes when you get into a contested will contest, who has the money that can buy experts and pay for depositions? Sometimes that's an unfair advantage, but that's the real world. But I'd always get that will, put it in a place, let somebody know where it's at, and use it.
And Greg said, what are the advantages? It certainly gives you some certainty and some peace of mind, knowing that your family knows where everything stands and there's not going to be some type of dispute.
We've had a lot of people that would write a will, and then, a month later their children aggravated them, disappointed them, and then they come in and write them out. And then they go another year, and then they say, well, I've forgiven them and I want to write them back in. That's the real world.
All right. Hire a lawyer, but shouldn't be that expensive.
It's very minimally expensive.
All right. We've got Joe here. Hi, Joe.
Yes.
Do you have a question for us tonight?
Yes. I was wondering, one of my kids' parents had passed away, and I was paying child support. Do I still have to pay, I guess, the arrears?
Yes, child support is an issue that even if a parent passed away, you still have to pay child support. If it's arrears, those child supports judgments are still there, and they can linger even after the child's 18. If you've got a past due judgment, they can continue to collect that, because the law, what is the theory of the law? The theory of the law is if a parent has a child, they should pay for their upkeep. If you fell behind, which many people do, well, okay, we understand that, but there's a judgment and you're going to have to continue to pay that. And if you don't, the state will pick up and take care of the children, and then they'll come and collect.
And it's for the support of that child,
Right.
not necessarily that child's other parent.
That's the public policy. That's why so much of the time, we may not know the specific law or the statute, but we understand what public policy would dictate in those circumstances.
Right. Got Emmanuel on line 5. Hi, Emmanuel.
Yes. I have a question. My brother won a restraining order, and he still is being kind of forced to pay like is it the court cost?
Yes.
Is that legal?
Yes. When you go and make an application for a restraining order, which is, what does it mean? It means that there's immediate and irreparable harm about to happen. So you go to a judge and say, Judge, we've got to restrain this person from doing something. That's good for 14 days in the state of Tennessee. And then, if it went to a different temporary injunction, could be longer. You could ask for a permanent injunction. But yes, it costs. You have to pay for the court costs to file it. You'd have to pay for a service of process to serve the others and give them notice. Under the Due Process Clause of the Constitution, you have a right to be notified. And we have what's known in Tennessee as the ex parte restraining order, meaning if you didn't have a lawyer, someone could go straight to a judge and say, immediately sign this, don't let them take the children from my custody. That's where you usually see those things, but yes, you'd have to pay for it.
I think a lot of people don't realize, that there are court costs, and our legal system isn't very cheap.
You'll hear it a lot. You know what? I'm going to own those. I will sue those guys. Well, you can sue them and you can win, but usually there's some expense that goes with every time we advance a cause.
Yeah, that's right. All right, we've got Keith here. Hi, Keith.
Hey, listen, I was injured on the job. It was like August the 4th. Now, Workman's Comp has covered it for a couple of months, at least my medical expenses, but for some reason they didn't pay me. And I'm wondering, we finally have a doctor that is saying that it is work-related.
All right.
Now, I know that if you go back to the state of Tennessee and say that, well, basically they go on what the doctor said. We have a neurologist that says that it was work-related.
Okay.
Why is it so difficult to get a lawyer in a work-related incident these days? I know they changed the laws to where it hurts the worker,
Yep.
but why is it that it seems like they just go on a doctor's orders, or
Right.
they say what the doctor says is what. And if I have a neurologist that's saying it's work-related, and if I go back to the state, or would it be more attractive to a lawyer if a doctor says, or a neurologist, as far as a back injury, I think a neurologist is as high as you can get. So if he's saying it's work-related, then I need to go back to Workman's Comp and try to receive some of the back pay that I missed and cover my medical expenses.
Well, the big question you always say here, is it hard for lawyers that want to take your case? You hear this magic testimony about people saying, we need tort reform. Well, let me just explain to you. You go to any city, the biggest building is insurance companies. And they were the ones who were financing workers' comp. Well, a few years ago, they decided, well, we should tort reform cut the workers' comp, and that really cuts. You said, well, okay, we're going to cut lawyers. Hold on. The little man, the last vestige of hope and justice in America, specifically Tennessee, is through the lawyer. And if you don't believe that, that's where you find yourself. So every time someone tries to sell you a bill of goods on tort reform, they really are saying they're cutting your rights to the courthouse, because it is very complex, it is complicated, and you need a lawyer. One of the great things about a workers' comp, you can take 20% of the recovery. Well, they've changed the laws where the lawyers can't hardly be paid, and of course a lawyer has to be paid for their time, because they're paying malpractice, they're paying library expense, they're paying secretarial staff. So they can't work for free because it's just not feasible. So what I would say again, where you are, yes, is it the doctor say so? The lawyers won't even move until a doctor gives some kind of a medical rating. Again, the insurance company will be paying that doctor. Many times you'll need to get your lawyer to get your own doctor. Now we've got two doctors, two different opinions. You need to go to court and solve that one.
And your lawyer can cross-examine that doctor as well. All right, we've got Dot. Oh, I'm sorry. You know what? We're going to take a quick break. Dot, if you will just hold on, we'll be back with your question and others. Keep calling that number, 737+.